In the summer of 1982, the oil-rich city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, was experiencing an economic boom that masked the darkness lurking beneath its surface. What appeared to be a thriving community built on faith and prosperity would soon confront a truth so shocking that it would shake the very foundations of trust for decades to come. Sometimes the most dangerous predators hide behind the most trusted facades. The year 1982 marked a pivotal moment in American history. Ronald Reagan occupied the White House. The country was emerging from a recession, and Tulsa stood as a testament to the American dream. Oil derricks dotted the landscape like mechanical prayers reaching toward heaven, while church spires punctuated nearly every neighborhood. This was a city where Sunday services drew packed congregations, where community leaders were revered, and where parents felt safe letting their children walk to school unaccompanied. Tulsa's Brookside district buzzed with activity that August. Tree-lined streets hosted families who had lived there for generations, their modest homes reflecting the steady prosperity that oil money brought to working-class neighborhoods. Children rode bicycles until streetlights flickered on and neighbors knew each other by name. The local community center organized summer programs, and churches served as anchors for social life. It was the kind of place where everyone looked out for everyone else's children. Among the families who called this neighborhood home were the Hendersons, who had moved to Tulsa 3 years earlier when Robert Henderson secured a position at a local manufacturing plant. His wife, Carol, worked part-time at the public library while caring for their daughter, 16-year-old Stephanie. The family had quickly integrated into the tight-knit community, attending Brookside Methodist Church and participating in neighborhood watch programs. Stephanie Henderson embodied the optimism of her generation. A junior at Nathan Hale High School, she maintained excellent grades while participating in the drama club and volunteering at the local animal shelter. Her teachers described her as thoughtful and mature beyond her years, someone who genuinely cared about others. She had dreams of studying veterinary medicine and often spoke about opening her own practice someday. Her weekends were typically spent babysitting for neighbors or helping her mother organize church fundraisers. The teenager had developed a particular fondness for working with younger children at the church's summer program. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she would walk the 6 blocks from her home to assist with activities, crafts, and story time. Her supervisor, Pastor William Garrett, frequently praised her dedication and natural ability to connect with the children. The 42-year-old minister had led the congregation for nearly 8 years and was widely respected throughout the community. Pastor Garrett had arrived in Tulsa in 1974, bringing with him impressive credentials from seminary and glowing recommendations from his previous parish in Arkansas. He quickly established himself as a charismatic leader who could deliver powerful sermons while maintaining a gentle demeanor with parishioners. His wife, Helen, taught Sunday school, and their 2 young sons were active in church youth programs. The family lived in the parsonage adjacent to the church, making them highly visible and accessible to congregation members. Under Pastor Garrett's leadership, the church had grown significantly. He initiated community outreach programs, organized charity drives, and established the summer program that had become so popular with local families. His door was always open to those seeking counsel, and he made regular visits to hospitalized parishioners. Church attendance had increased by 40% during his tenure, and plans were underway for a building expansion. The summer of 1982 had been particularly successful for the church's youth programs. Enrollment in the summer activities had reached record numbers, with over 60 children participating in various age groups. Stephanie Henderson had emerged as one of the most reliable volunteers, often staying late to help clean up or prepare materials for the next day's activities. Her parents were proud of their daughter's commitment to service and her positive influence on younger children. As August progressed, the community felt secure in its routines and relationships. Parents trusted the institutions that had served them well, and children moved freely through neighborhoods where everyone knew their names. The church remained a cornerstone of social life, and Pastor Garrett continued to be viewed as a pillar of moral authority. No one could have imagined that within this sanctuary of faith and community trust, a darkness was about to emerge that would forever change how they viewed safety, authority, and the very nature of evil itself. Thursday, August 26, 1982, began like any other summer day in Tulsa's Brookside district. The morning air carried the familiar scent of oil refineries mixed with blooming crepe myrtles, and children's laughter echoed from backyards as families prepared for another day. For the Henderson family, it marked what should have been another routine day of Stephanie's volunteer work at the church summer program. Carol Henderson watched from the kitchen window as her daughter gathered her materials for the day's activities. Stephanie had prepared art supplies for a craft project involving painted rocks, carefully organizing everything in her canvas bag. She wore her favorite yellow sundress and had braided her long brown hair, a style the younger children at the program always admired. Before leaving, she reminded her mother that she might stay late to help prepare decorations for the upcoming church picnic. The walk to Brookside Methodist Church typically took Stephanie 12 minutes along familiar tree-lined streets. Neighbors later reported seeing her that morning, waving to Mrs. Patterson, who was tending her garden, and stopping briefly to pet the Johnsons' golden retriever that always greeted passers-by from behind the fence. According to witness accounts, she arrived at the church around 9:30, her usual time, and entered through the side door that led directly to the fellowship hall. The summer program operated in the church's lower level, where multiple rooms accommodated different age groups. Stephanie typically worked with the youngest children, ages 4 through 7, helping them with crafts and story time. Other volunteers and staff members reported that she seemed in good spirits that morning, enthusiastic about the rock painting project she had planned. The morning session proceeded normally, with approximately 20 children participating in various activities. According to church records, the program officially ended at noon, with most children being picked up by parents or walking home in small groups. Several volunteers began cleaning up, while others prepared materials for the afternoon session scheduled to begin at 2 o'clock. Stephanie had volunteered to help organize supplies in the storage room, a task that typically took about 30 minutes. This was the last time multiple witnesses could definitively place her in the building. When the afternoon session began, other volunteers noticed Stephanie's absence, but initially assumed she had gone home for lunch and would return later. Her materials remained in the fellowship hall, and her canvas bag sat on one of the tables where she had left it. Pastor Garrett, when asked about her whereabouts, told staff members that he believed she had mentioned feeling unwell and had probably gone home to rest. As the afternoon progressed and Stephanie failed to appear, concern began to mount among the volunteer staff. One of the other helpers, Mrs. Davidson, attempted to call the Henderson home, but received no answer. The church secretary tried reaching Carol Henderson at the library, but was told she was in a meeting and could not be disturbed immediately. By 4 o'clock, when parents began arriving to pick up their children, Stephanie's continued absence had become a source of genuine worry. Carol Henderson arrived at the church at 4:30, expecting to find her daughter helping with cleanup activities. Instead, she was met by Pastor Garrett and several volunteers who explained that Stephanie had not been seen since the lunch break. The initial assumption was that some miscommunication had occurred. Perhaps Stephanie had become ill and walked home without informing anyone. However, a quick phone call to the Henderson residence confirmed that she had never returned home. A systematic search of the church building began immediately. Volunteers checked every room, closet, and storage area, calling Stephanie's name and hoping for a response. The search expanded to the church grounds, including the small garden area behind the building and the parking lot. Pastor Garrett personally checked his office and the parsonage, while other church members began walking the route between the church and the Henderson home. By 6 o'clock, with no sign of Stephanie anywhere, Carol Henderson made the decision that would forever change their lives. She contacted the Tulsa Police Department to report her daughter as missing. The initial response was measured, as officers explained that teenagers sometimes lost track of time or failed to communicate their whereabouts. However, given Stephanie's responsible nature and the unusual circumstances of her disappearance from a supervised church program, police agreed to begin an immediate investigation. The first officers to arrive at Brookside Methodist Church found a scene of controlled chaos. Church members continued searching the grounds, while Pastor Garrett attempted to coordinate their efforts. Stephanie's belongings remained untouched in the fellowship hall, her canvas bag containing personal items, including her house key and a small amount of money. Her absence from a place she knew well, surrounded by people who cared about her, created an immediate sense of unease that would only deepen as hours turned into days. The Tulsa Police Department's initial response to Stephanie Henderson's disappearance reflected the investigative protocols of 1982, an era before Amber Alerts, cell phone tracking, and sophisticated forensic databases. Detective Raymond Collins, a 15-year veteran of the force, was assigned as lead investigator on what authorities initially classified as a missing person case rather than a potential crime scene. Detective Collins arrived at Brookside Methodist Church at approximately 7:30 that evening, accompanied by Officer Janet Martinez and a crime scene photographer. Their first priority involved securing the fellowship hall where Stephanie had last been seen and conducting preliminary interviews with witnesses who remained at the church. According to police reports, the initial assessment focused on the possibility that Stephanie had left voluntarily, perhaps meeting someone she knew or simply deciding to skip the afternoon session. The detectives' first interviews revealed what appeared to be a straightforward timeline. Multiple witnesses confirmed Stephanie's presence during the morning program and her participation in cleanup activities around noon. However, the crucial 30-minute window when she was supposedly organizing supplies in the storage room presented the first significant challenge. No one could provide a definitive account of her activities during this period, and the storage room itself yielded no obvious signs of disturbance. Pastor Garrett provided what seemed to be the most comprehensive account of the day's events. According to his statement, he had briefly spoken with Stephanie around 11:45 about supplies needed for the following week's activities. He reported that she seemed perfectly normal and had mentioned looking forward to the upcoming church picnic. The pastor explained that he had spent most of the lunch period in his office preparing for an afternoon counseling session and had not seen Stephanie after their brief conversation. The investigation's first major misstep occurred during the initial canvassing of potential witnesses. Police focused primarily on interviewing church members and immediate neighbors, but failed to conduct a broader sweep of the surrounding area. Several residents who lived along alternative routes between the church and Henderson home were not contacted until days later, potentially missing crucial information about Stephanie's movements or any suspicious activity in the neighborhood. Detective Collins initially pursued the theory that Stephanie had encountered someone she knew and trusted, possibly accepting a ride or agreeing to go somewhere voluntarily. This hypothesis led investigators to focus heavily on her social circle, including classmates, family friends, and other church members. Hours were spent interviewing teenagers from Nathan Hale High School and young adults from the church youth group, seeking any indication of romantic relationships, conflicts, or plans that Stephanie might have kept secret from her parents. The second significant error in the early investigation involved the handling of physical evidence at the church. While police photographed Stephanie's belongings and the fellowship hall, they did not immediately treat the entire building as a potential crime scene. Areas such as Pastor Garrett's office, the church basement storage rooms, and the parsonage were not thoroughly processed for fingerprints or other forensic evidence. This oversight would prove costly as the investigation progressed and suspicions eventually shifted. Authorities also pursued several false leads that consumed valuable time and resources. An anonymous tip claimed that a suspicious van had been seen in the church parking lot around noon on August 26th, leading to an extensive search for the vehicle and its occupants. Another lead involved a reported sighting of Stephanie at a bus station in downtown Tulsa, prompting investigators to review security footage and interview transportation personnel. Both leads ultimately proved unfounded, but diverted attention from more promising avenues of investigation. The search for Stephanie expanded beyond the immediate church area within 48 hours of her disappearance. Police organized volunteer search parties that combed through nearby parks, vacant lots, and wooded areas along the Arkansas River. Bloodhounds were brought in to track any scent trail, but the dogs lost the trail in the church parking lot, suggesting that Stephanie had likely left the area in a vehicle. One of the most significant oversights in the early investigation involved the failure to conduct thorough background checks on all individuals with access to the church building. While Pastor Garrett and other staff members were interviewed, investigators did not immediately delve into their personal histories or verify their whereabouts during the critical time period. The assumption that church personnel were above suspicion reflected the social attitudes of the era and the community's deep trust in religious institutions. Detective Collins also made the decision to delay involving federal authorities, believing that local resources were sufficient for what might still prove to be a runaway situation. This choice meant that advanced investigative techniques and databases available through the FBI were not immediately utilized. The delay in expanding the investigation's scope would later be criticized as a crucial missed opportunity. As the first week of the investigation concluded, police had conducted over 50 interviews, processed Stephanie's belongings for fingerprints, and coordinated extensive search efforts throughout Tulsa County. However, they had failed to identify any concrete suspects or develop a clear theory about what had happened to the 16-year-old volunteer. The case that had begun with such urgency was already showing signs of the stagnation that would characterize it for years to come. By September 1982, the intensive search for Stephanie Henderson had gradually diminished to periodic follow-ups and the occasional pursuit of new tips. Detective Collins continued working the case, but with no concrete leads and mounting pressure to focus on other investigations, the daily urgency that had characterized the first weeks began to fade. The Tulsa Police Department officially reclassified the investigation as a cold case in March 1983, though they maintained that any new information would be thoroughly investigated. The Henderson family's life transformed dramatically in the months following their daughter's disappearance. Robert Henderson took extended leave from his manufacturing job, spending countless hours distributing flyers and following up on potential sightings that inevitably led nowhere. Carol Henderson struggled to maintain her position at the library, often breaking down during work hours as the reality of their situation settled in. The family's modest savings were depleted by private investigator fees and travel expenses as they chased leads across multiple states. Brookside Methodist Church experienced its own profound changes in the aftermath of the investigation. Attendance dropped significantly as some families chose to worship elsewhere, uncomfortable with the unresolved questions surrounding Stephanie's disappearance. The summer youth program was suspended indefinitely, and many parents became reluctant to allow their children to participate in church activities without direct supervision. Pastor Garrett found himself counseling congregation members who struggled with questions about faith and safety in the wake of the tragedy. The broader Tulsa community grappled with the unsettling reality that a teenage girl could simply vanish without a trace from what should have been a secure environment. Local media coverage gradually decreased, though the Tulsa World continued to publish anniversary articles each August, keeping Stephanie's story in the public consciousness. Her case became a cautionary tale that parents shared with their children, fundamentally altering the sense of security that had characterized the neighborhood. As years passed, the investigation faced the typical challenges that plague cold cases. Key witnesses moved away from Tulsa, making follow-up interviews difficult or impossible. Physical evidence remained limited, and the forensic technology of the early 1980s provided few options for reanalysis. Detective Collins retired in 1989, passing the case files to Detective Maria Santos, who inherited a box of documents, photographs, and evidence that had yielded no definitive answers. The Henderson family's quest for answers never ceased, even as hope for Stephanie's safe return faded. They established a small foundation in her memory, providing scholarships for students interested in veterinary medicine and supporting other families dealing with missing children cases. Annual memorial services at Brookside Methodist Church drew smaller crowds each year, but the core group of supporters remained steadfast in their commitment to keeping Stephanie's memory alive. Pastor Garrett continued his ministry at Brookside Methodist until 1987, when he accepted a position at a larger congregation in Kansas City. His departure was officially attributed to career advancement opportunities, though some church members privately speculated about the ongoing stress of having an unsolved case associated with his ministry. The new pastor, Reverend David Thompson, worked diligently to restore the church's sense of community and safety, gradually rebuilding programs and attendance. Throughout the 1990s, Stephanie's case occasionally resurfaced in local media, particularly when other missing person cases drew comparisons or when new investigative techniques became available. The development of DNA analysis technology offered brief hope for breakthrough developments, but the limited physical evidence from 1982 provided few opportunities for testing. Detective Santos periodically reviewed the files, looking for connections to other unsolved cases or new angles that previous investigators might have missed. The case gained renewed attention in 1995 when a true crime television program featured Stephanie's disappearance, generating dozens of tips from across the country. However, none of the leads provided substantial new information, and the investigation remained stalled. The program did succeed in keeping the case in public awareness and demonstrated that people beyond Tulsa continued to care about finding answers. By the turn of the millennium, Stephanie Henderson's disappearance had become part of Tulsa's collective memory, a reminder of innocence lost and questions unanswered. The case files had been transferred to digital format, and new detectives occasionally reviewed the materials. But without fresh evidence or witnesses, progress remained elusive. The Henderson family had moved to Arizona in 1998, seeking a fresh start, while never abandoning hope that someday they would learn the truth about their daughter's fate. In January 2009, 27 years after Stephanie Henderson's disappearance, Detective Lieutenant Karen Walsh of the Tulsa Police Department's Cold Case Unit received an unexpected call that would finally break open one of the city's most enduring mysteries. The caller was Detective James Morrison from the Kansas City Police Department, who had been investigating a series of allegations against former clergy members in the metropolitan area. Detective Morrison explained that his department had received multiple complaints regarding William Garrett, the former pastor of Brookside Methodist Church. According to police reports, 3 women had come forward with allegations of inappropriate conduct dating back to Garrett's tenure in Kansas City during the late 1980s and early 1990s. While investigating these claims, Morrison had discovered Garrett's previous assignment in Tulsa and the unsolved disappearance that had occurred during his ministry there. The Kansas City investigation had already uncovered disturbing patterns in Garrett's behavior. Church records indicated that he had been quietly transferred from his Kansas City position in 1994, following internal complaints that were never reported to authorities. Subsequent research revealed a troubling history of similar transfers and hushed allegations spanning multiple states and decades. According to investigators, Garrett had allegedly used his position of trust and authority to exploit vulnerable individuals within his congregations. Detective Walsh immediately reopened the Henderson case files and began coordinating with Kansas City authorities. The original evidence from 1982 had been carefully preserved, including items collected from the church fellowship hall and Garrett's former office. Advances in forensic technology now made it possible to extract DNA profiles from evidence that had been considered unusable decades earlier. The breakthrough came when forensic specialists were able to recover genetic material from a small fabric sample that had been found caught on a doorframe in the church storage room. The sample had been collected during the original investigation, but could not be analyzed with the technology available in 1982. Modern DNA extraction techniques revealed a profile that did not match Stephanie Henderson or any of the volunteer staff members who had been in the building that day. Simultaneously, investigators obtained a court order to collect DNA samples from William Garrett, who was living in retirement in Florida. According to legal documents, the sample was collected during a traffic stop coordinated between Florida authorities and the Tulsa Police Department. Laboratory analysis confirmed a match between Garrett's DNA and the genetic material found in the church storage room, providing the first concrete physical evidence linking him to Stephanie's disappearance. Further investigation revealed additional circumstantial evidence that had been overlooked or misinterpreted during the original case. Church financial records from 1982 showed that Garrett had made an unusual cash withdrawal of $1,500 on August 27th, the day after Stephanie's disappearance. Bank surveillance footage from that era was no longer available, but the transaction records raised questions about his activities in the immediate aftermath of the incident. Investigators also discovered that Garrett had provided inconsistent statements during his original interviews in 1982. While he had claimed to be in his office during the crucial lunch period, church telephone records showed that he had made several calls from the fellowship hall phone during that same time frame. This discrepancy suggested that his account of his whereabouts had been deliberately misleading. The investigation expanded to include a comprehensive review of Garrett's background and career history. Authorities contacted law enforcement agencies in Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee, where Garrett had served in various ministerial positions. This multi-state investigation revealed a pattern of allegations and suspicious incidents that had never been properly investigated or connected to a single individual. In collaboration with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, investigators developed a profile suggesting that Garrett had allegedly used his religious authority to gain access to victims over many years. According to the analysis, his pattern of behavior included targeting individuals who were isolated or vulnerable, using his position to gain trust and then exploiting that trust for personal gratification. On March 18, 2009, a grand jury in Tulsa County returned an indictment against William Garrett on charges related to Stephanie Henderson's disappearance. The 71-year-old former pastor was arrested at his Florida residence without incident. According to court documents, he was charged with kidnapping and murder in the first degree, with prosecutors alleging that he had used his position of authority to lure Stephanie to an isolated area of the church where the alleged crime occurred. The arrest sent shockwaves through the communities where Garrett had served, prompting additional victims to come forward with their own accounts of alleged abuse and misconduct. Law enforcement agencies in multiple states opened new investigations, and several civil lawsuits were filed against churches and denominational organizations that had allegedly failed to properly investigate earlier complaints. The arrest of William Garrett in March 2009 sent immediate shockwaves through Tulsa's religious community and beyond. News of the charges spread rapidly through social media and local news outlets, with many former parishioners expressing disbelief that someone they had trusted and revered could be connected to such a heinous crime. The revelation forced countless individuals to re-examine their memories of interactions with Garrett and question their ability to recognize predatory behavior. Robert and Carol Henderson, now living in Phoenix, learned of the arrest through a phone call from Detective Walsh. After 27 years of uncertainty and false hope, the news brought a complex mixture of relief and renewed grief. The couple immediately made plans to return to Tulsa for the legal proceedings, determined to see justice served for their daughter. In a statement released through their attorney, they expressed gratitude to law enforcement for never giving up on Stephanie's case, while acknowledging that no legal outcome could restore what they had lost. Brookside Methodist Church, now under the leadership of Pastor Helen Rodriguez, faced the difficult task of addressing the allegations against their former minister. The current congregation, many of whom had no direct memory of Garrett's tenure, struggled to reconcile the charges with their understanding of their church's history. Pastor Rodriguez organized special counseling sessions and community meetings to help parishioners process the news and its implications for their faith community. The legal proceedings began in earnest when Garrett was extradited from Florida to Oklahoma in April 2009. His defense team, led by attorney Marcus Thompson, initially entered a plea of not guilty to all charges. The defense strategy focused on challenging the reliability of DNA evidence that had been stored for nearly 3 decades and questioning the chain of custody for physical evidence collected in 1982. Tulsa County District Attorney Rachel Martinez assembled a prosecution team that included veteran prosecutors and specialists in cold case litigation. The state's case relied heavily on the DNA evidence linking Garrett to the crime scene, supported by circumstantial evidence, including his inconsistent statements and suspicious financial transactions. Prosecutors also planned to introduce testimony about Garrett's alleged pattern of predatory behavior in other jurisdictions. The case attracted significant media attention, with national news outlets covering the story as an example of how modern forensic technology could solve decades-old crimes. Legal experts noted the challenges of prosecuting a case where key witnesses had died or moved away, and where memories of events from 1982 had inevitably faded. The prosecution faced the additional burden of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, based largely on scientific evidence rather than eyewitness testimony. As the trial date approached, additional allegations against Garrett emerged from his various ministerial assignments. Law enforcement agencies in 4 states reported receiving new complaints from individuals who claimed they had been victimized by the former pastor during his career. While these allegations could not be directly introduced in the Henderson case, they contributed to a broader pattern that prosecutors hoped to establish. The Methodist Church hierarchy faced intense scrutiny regarding their handling of Garrett's career and any prior knowledge of misconduct allegations. Internal church documents revealed that complaints had been made against Garrett in previous assignments, but these had been handled through administrative transfers rather than criminal investigations. Church officials issued public apologies and announced new policies for reporting and investigating allegations of abuse by clergy members. In September 2009, just weeks before the scheduled trial, Garrett's legal situation took a dramatic turn. Facing overwhelming DNA evidence and the prospect of additional charges in other states, his defense team entered into plea negotiations with prosecutors. According to court documents, discussions focused on a potential guilty plea in exchange for life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, avoiding a death penalty trial. On October 8, 2009, William Garrett appeared before Judge Robert Sullivan and formally pleaded guilty to charges of kidnapping and first-degree murder in the death of Stephanie Henderson. The plea agreement required Garrett to provide a detailed confession describing the events of August 26, 1982, finally answering questions that had haunted the community for nearly 3 decades. The courtroom was packed with Henderson family members, former parishioners, and community members who had followed the case since 1982. Garrett's confession, read aloud by prosecutors, revealed that he had lured Stephanie to an isolated area of the church under the pretense of discussing youth program activities, then attacked her when she attempted to leave. The details, while providing closure, reopened wounds that many had thought had begun to heal. The resolution of Stephanie Henderson's case in 2009 marked more than just the end of a 27-year mystery. It fundamentally transformed how religious institutions across Oklahoma and beyond approached safety protocols and background screening procedures. William Garrett's sentencing to life imprisonment without parole provided legal closure, but the broader implications of his crimes continued to reverberate through communities nationwide. The Methodist Church implemented comprehensive reforms in response to the case, establishing mandatory background checks for all clergy members and creating independent oversight committees to investigate allegations of misconduct. These changes extended beyond the Methodist denomination, as other religious organizations recognized the need for enhanced safeguards to protect vulnerable members of their congregations. The case became a catalyst for legislative action in several states, leading to stricter reporting requirements for suspected abuse within religious institutions. Brookside Methodist Church underwent a profound transformation in the years following Garrett's conviction. The congregation established the Stephanie Henderson Memorial Fund, which provided scholarships for young women pursuing careers in veterinary medicine and supported organizations dedicated to solving cold cases. The church also implemented new safety protocols for youth programs, including mandatory dual supervision and comprehensive background screening for all volunteers and staff members. The Henderson family's long journey toward justice inspired other families dealing with unsolved cases to maintain hope despite seemingly insurmountable odds. Robert and Carol Henderson became advocates for cold case investigations, working with law enforcement agencies to promote the use of advanced forensic technologies in reviewing old evidence. Their persistence demonstrated that families could play a crucial role in keeping cases active and ensuring that investigations continued, even when initial leads were exhausted. The case highlighted the critical importance of preserving physical evidence, even when contemporary technology could not analyze it effectively. The fabric sample that ultimately provided the breakthrough DNA evidence had been carefully stored for nearly 3 decades, demonstrating the value of meticulous evidence management. Police departments across the country began reviewing their cold case evidence storage procedures, recognizing that future technological advances might unlock answers to currently unsolvable crimes. Detective Walsh's success in solving the Henderson case led to increased funding for cold case units and expanded training in advanced forensic techniques. The Tulsa Police Department established new protocols for reviewing unsolved cases, prioritizing those with preserved physical evidence that could benefit from modern DNA analysis. The department also strengthened partnerships with federal agencies and forensic laboratories to ensure access to cutting-edge investigative resources. The revelation of Garrett's crimes prompted a broader examination of how predatory individuals exploit positions of trust and authority. Mental health professionals and criminologists studied the case to better understand the psychological profile of offenders who use religious authority to access victims. This research contributed to improved training for law enforcement officers and social workers in recognizing and investigating crimes committed by trusted community figures. Stephanie Henderson's memory lives on through various memorials and initiatives established in her honor. Nathan Hale High School created an annual service award recognizing students who demonstrate exceptional commitment to helping others, reflecting the volunteer spirit that had defined Stephanie's short life. The veterinary program at Oklahoma State University established a scholarship fund that has helped dozens of young women pursue careers in animal medicine. The case also demonstrated the power of interagency cooperation in solving complex crimes. The collaboration between Tulsa and Kansas City police departments, along with federal assistance, showed how information sharing could break open cases that had remained stagnant for decades. This success led to the creation of regional task forces dedicated to investigating crimes that cross jurisdictional boundaries. As the 10th anniversary of Garrett's conviction approached in 2019, the Henderson case continued to serve as a reminder that justice, while sometimes delayed, could still be achieved through persistence, technological advancement, and dedicated law enforcement work. The resolution provided closure for a community that had carried the burden of unanswered questions for nearly 3 decades, while establishing important precedents for how similar cases might be investigated and resolved in the future.